Hello, and welcome back to Dark Crimes Real.
In the heart of Phnom Penh, one name towers over the skyline: Prince Group. Its buildings rise higher each year, its reach spreading across banks, casinos, and real estate. But behind that glittering name lies a mystery: the story of the man who built it all. A man few have seen, yet everyone in Cambodia seems to know. His name is Chen Zhi. He appeared out of nowhere. No one remembers the first time his name was mentioned in the news, only that suddenly it was everywhere. From glossy billboards to charity events, from luxury towers to political circles, Chen Zhi's presence became impossible to ignore. He was young, confident, and generous, the kind of figure a developing nation could proudly showcase. To the public, he was a symbol of modern Cambodia's success. To others, he was something far more complicated. The rise of Prince Group was unlike anything the country had ever seen. Within just a few years, the company dominated multiple industries: finance, real estate, and even entertainment. Money seemed to flow endlessly, and Chen Zhi stood at the center of it all. His image, carefully crafted and almost untouchable, portrayed him as both visionary and philanthropist. He funded hospitals, scholarships, and public works. The local media praised him as the most generous businessman in Cambodia. But power, especially sudden power, always leaves questions behind. Who was he before Cambodia? Where did his fortune begin? And how did one man gain so much influence so quickly? International observers began to take notice. Some called him a rising tycoon. Others whispered that the empire he built was far larger and darker than it appeared. But facts were scarce, and Chen Zhi rarely spoke publicly. He preferred to let his towers speak for him, each one taller than the last, each one casting a longer shadow across Phnom Penh. This is the story of that shadow, of how a mysterious businessman rose to power in a country at the crossroads of ambition and corruption, and of how in 2025 the world finally turned its eyes toward him, not with admiration, but with suspicion. Because in Cambodia, power can build empires and hide secrets deep within their walls. To understand the man, we must first look at where he came from. No one truly knows where Chen Zhi's story begins. Public records are scarce. His early life remains a blur, a trail that fades the moment you try to follow it. Some sources claim he was born in China's Fujian province, a region known for trade and ambition. Others suggest he spent years moving through business circles across Hong Kong and Singapore before finding a new home. What is known is this: sometime around the early 2010s, Chen Zhi arrived in Cambodia, quietly but with significant capital. It was a time of rapid change. Cambodia was opening its doors to foreign investment. The government offered citizenship to wealthy entrepreneurs who could bring jobs and development. The coastal city of Sihanoukville, once a sleepy port, was transforming into a neon-lit playground, casinos, hotels, and high-rise towers funded by Chinese money. It was a place where fortunes could be made overnight, and Chen Zhi came prepared. From his earliest business ventures, his strategy was clear: move fast, stay invisible. He built connections across real estate and finance, acquiring property in Phnom Penh while forming silent partnerships with investors from mainland China. He spoke little, appeared rarely, but somehow every deal carried his influence. To those who met him, Chen Zhi appeared calm, reserved, almost detached, a man who never wasted a word. But behind that quiet demeanor was a plan that would change Cambodia's economic landscape. By 2014, rumors circulated about a new investor pouring millions into construction projects across the country. The buildings carried one emblem, a golden crown. Soon, the name Prince began to appear on bank offices, real estate ads, and casino walls. Prince Real Estate, Prince Bank, Prince Group, each branch of a rapidly growing network, and at its center, Chen Zhi. He quickly adapted to the Cambodian system. With wealth came status, and with status came access. In less than 5 years, he secured Cambodian citizenship, a privilege few foreigners could obtain so swiftly. He sponsored national charity events, donated to hospitals, and appeared alongside senior officials. To the public, he was a foreign investor helping the nation rise. But to some observers, his climb seemed too fast, too perfect. International analysts would later describe this period as the silent build-up, the time when Chen Zhi positioned himself not just as a businessman, but as an indispensable figure in Cambodia's future. His influence reached ministries, banks, and local media. Every year, the Prince logo expanded, from Phnom Penh's skyline to Sihanoukville's casinos, and the man behind it all remained almost invisible. The few interviews attributed to him spoke in vague promises about progress, innovation, and sustainable development. Yet beneath the corporate language, there was a pattern: rapid growth, fueled by limitless funding, much of it moving through offshore accounts. Money flowed in from unknown origins and reappeared in Cambodia as glittering towers and resorts. No one asked too many questions. In a country hungry for investment, success was its own justification. But even in the early days, some insiders noticed odd details. Companies registered to shell addresses, financial filings delayed or incomplete. Still, nothing concrete tied these irregularities to Chen Zhi himself. He remained out of reach, hidden behind layers of corporate entities and public relations. To most Cambodians, Chen Zhi was the face of opportunity, the man who brought a modern skyline to their capital. To others, he was a ghost, a symbol of how quickly power could grow in the shadows of prosperity. By the mid-2010s, Prince Group had become a name synonymous with wealth and progress, and Chen Zhi had become something else. Not just an entrepreneur, but a symbol of a new kind of authority in Cambodia. Where his money truly came from remained a question few dared to ask. Soon, his name would appear on every building in Phnom Penh. By the time Phnom Penh's skyline began to change, the name Prince Group had already become a brand, sleek, ambitious, and everywhere. Officially, it was registered as Prince Holding Group, a conglomerate operating across real estate, finance, tourism, and consumer sectors. But its core strength was always construction, the physical proof of Chen Zhi's empire rising brick by brick. The flagship arm, Prince Real Estate, led massive development projects in Cambodia's capital and along the coast. High-rise condominiums, luxury hotels, shopping complexes, each stamped with the Golden Crown logo that symbolized Chen Zhi's growing dominance. Then came Prince Bank, one of the few private banks in the country backed by international capital. Within a few short years, it became one of Cambodia's fastest-growing financial institutions. Under the same umbrella were other entities: Prince Media, managing public relations and image-making; Prince Foundation, handling philanthropy and social projects, and smaller subsidiaries spread through Singapore and Hong Kong. Each company served a purpose. Each one helped build the illusion of a perfectly structured empire. By 2017, the scale of Prince Group was difficult to ignore. Its developments stretched from Phnom Penh to Sihanoukville, a city transforming into a casino hub dominated by Chinese investment. In a nation still rebuilding its economy, Prince became the face of prosperity, the investor every ministry wanted, the employer thousands depended on. And at its helm, Chen Zhi was untouchable. The rapid expansion left analysts puzzled. How could a company so young acquire land, licenses, and banking rights so quickly? Some pointed to Chen Zhi's strategic alliances with high-level business figures from mainland China. Others whispered about offshore accounts and quiet investors from the region's gray markets. But on paper, everything looked legitimate. Prince Group was clean, audited, certified, and praised by government officials. Publicly, Chen Zhi remained silent. He rarely gave interviews, preferring to appear only at carefully staged events, charity galas, ribbon cuttings, award ceremonies. He presented himself as a man of progress, not power. But to those inside the business world, he was both. Prince Group wasn't just another company. It was a web, a network that touched construction, finance, and politics all at once. It was a system designed not only to generate wealth, but to protect it. As one former executive later remarked in an interview, Prince didn't grow like a company, it grew like a country, with its own rules, its own hierarchy, and one man at the top. And that man, Chen Zhi, was no longer just an investor. He was becoming a symbol, the embodiment of modern Cambodia's power and its hidden complexities. And the man behind it soon became more than a businessman. By the late 2010s, Chen Zhi had transformed from a discreet investor into one of the most visible men in Cambodia. His company's golden crown was etched into nearly every skyline, but it was his public image that shined the brightest. He was no longer just a businessman. He had become the symbol of Cambodia's new elite. Chen Zhi held the honorific title Nyak Okonya, a distinction reserved for the nation's most influential philanthropists and industrialists. The title came with status, protection, and direct access to power. In official photographs, he stood beside ministers, monks, and diplomats, always calm, always smiling. He was no longer just a stranger from abroad. He had become a national figure. Through Prince Foundation, his charitable arm, Chen Zhi sponsored schools, hospitals, and COVID-19 relief efforts. During the pandemic, his company donated millions in medical supplies and cash contributions. Cambodian state media praised him as a friend of the people and the man building a brighter future. He appeared on the front pages, handing over donations to orphanages and health ministries. The image was clear, a benevolent leader using his fortune to uplift an entire nation. But in the shadows of philanthropy, a different kind of power was growing. Prince Group's influence stretched far beyond charity events and property lines. The company's board included advisors tied to government circles and foreign financiers with opaque backgrounds. Through investment projects and sponsorships, Chen Zhi cultivated relationships across every sector that mattered: real estate, banking, tourism, and even local media. In Phnom Penh's business world, people began referring to him simply as the Prince. His influence reached quietly into decisions that shaped urban development and economic policy. When Prince Group invested, others followed. When Prince Group spoke, officials listened. To the average citizen, Chen Zhi was a story of success, proof that Cambodia could attract modern visionaries. To those within his orbit, He was a man who understood the language of power and how to speak it fluently without ever raising his voice. At lavish charity dinners, he sat at the center table, surrounded by foreign investors and local elites. He donated generously to religious causes, funding temple restorations and national festivals. Every act of giving was also an act of consolidation, tightening the web that connected his empire to the country's most influential institutions. Behind the scenes, Prince Group's business operations became increasingly sophisticated. Money flowed through multiple subsidiaries, joint ventures, and offshore holdings. The structure was designed for efficiency, or secrecy, depending on who you asked. Investigators from abroad would later describe it as a perfect corporate labyrinth, nearly impossible to trace from the outside. Still, for several years, nothing seemed out of place. Prince Group's empire flourished. His name appeared in Forbes Asia, and Prince Group continued winning awards for corporate excellence and best real estate developer. In Cambodia, success was measured by visibility, and Chen Zhi was everywhere. He funded sports programs, cultural exchanges, and public infrastructure projects. The more he gave, the untouchable he became. Every new tower, every charity gala added another layer to his image as the benevolent magnate who made Cambodia shine. Yet whispers persisted, quiet, uncertain, but persistent. Some insiders wondered how one man could expand so rapidly, acquiring land and licenses faster than any local firm. Others noticed that certain Prince Group subsidiaries had minimal operations but enormous financial turnover. When asked about these discrepancies, Chen Zhi's representatives dismissed them as misunderstandings or accounting delays. Still, the questions grew, and by 2023, journalists from regional outlets began investigating the Prince Group's financial networks. The reports were cautious, citing anonymous sources and limited evidence, but the tone had shifted. What had once been a story of success was now tinged with unease. To many, Chen Zhi remained a hero, the man who brought jobs, hope, and development. But to others, he had become the symbol of something larger, the merging of money, influence, and secrecy in a nation too small to contain it all. As one local reporter described it, Prince Group isn't just part of Cambodia's economy. In many ways, it is the economy. And in that vast network of power, Chen Zhi stood alone, smiling, silent, untouchable. But behind this polished image, whispers began to spread. For years, Prince Group stood as the gleaming symbol of Cambodia's economic boom. Its skyscrapers reflected the nation's ambitions, tall, bright, unstoppable. But behind the glass and gold, something didn't add up. Financial analysts began to notice patterns. The group's growth was faster than any domestic company in Cambodia's history. Its land acquisitions, bank licenses, and casino permits appeared to bypass layers of bureaucracy that held other investors back. Money moved through the system in ways few could explain. On paper, everything looked legitimate. Audited accounts, registered subsidiaries, official approvals, the empire seemed airtight. But the deeper experts looked, the more contradictions they found. Prince Group's companies were spread across multiple jurisdictions: Cambodia, Singapore, Hong Kong, the British Virgin Islands. Some existed only as names, with no real operations. Others showed massive financial flows that didn't match their declared activities. Offshore filings revealed a maze of shell corporations, each linking back to the same center, Chen Zhi. Reports from financial watchdogs mentioned unusual transfers connected to casino revenues and cryptocurrency investments. A few quietly suggested that parts of Prince's wealth might come from digital scams, pig butchering, romance frauds, and crypto laundering. Nothing was proven, but the suspicions grew louder. By 2024, international banks began tightening oversight on Prince-affiliated accounts. Transactions were delayed, documents re-verified, and inquiries sent back to Phnom Penh. Internally, staff members whispered about money coming in from untraceable sources, large wire transfers, followed by rapid reinvestment into land, construction, or charity. It all happened too fast, too clean, too quiet. Still, Chen Zhi remained untouched. His public image was flawless, a man of generosity and discipline. When asked about offshore companies, his representatives insisted they were part of normal international operations, and officially, no laws were broken. Not yet. But the world was changing. Global authorities had begun cracking down on cybercrime networks spreading across Southeast Asia. Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos were increasingly linked to vast scam compounds, fortified buildings where trafficked workers were forced to defraud victims online. And slowly, investigators began to connect those compounds to major financial groups, casino operators, and one very familiar name. Documents from Western intelligence agencies referenced financial facilitation between Prince Group's subsidiaries and companies later identified as fronts for organized scam networks. Satellite images showed large walled complexes near Sihanoukville, some reportedly owned by shell companies tied to Prince-linked investors. There were allegations, never confirmed, that these sites were used for human trafficking and online fraud. According to one leaked report, the Prince network may represent the financial infrastructure enabling scam operations across the region. The implications were staggering. If even part of it were true, the empire Chen Zhi built wasn't just about property and banking, it was the economic skeleton of a much darker machine. In October 2025, everything changed. The United States and the United Kingdom issued joint sanctions on Chen Zhi and Prince Group, designating them as part of a transnational criminal organization. Billions of assets were frozen. An estimated $15 billion in Bitcoin was seized in what authorities called the largest cyber fraud operation ever uncovered. According to the U.S. Treasury, Chen Zhi's conglomerate had been a central node in a network exploiting trafficked labor for global online scams. Prince Group immediately denied the accusations, calling them false, defamatory, and politically motivated. The Cambodian government, meanwhile, stated it would review the claims, but emphasized that Prince Group operates lawfully under national jurisdiction. For the first time, the man once hailed as a national hero was under international scrutiny. But in Cambodia, little seemed to change. His offices remained open. His nameplate still gleamed in gold. Behind the polished surface, however, the questions had become impossible to ignore. How deep did the money go? And how long had the world been fooled by the shine of the crown? Then came the moment that changed everything. In October 2025, the illusion cracked. For years, Chen Zhi had stood as Cambodia's model of success, the polished face of progress, wealth, and generosity. But on that day, headlines across the world told a different story. Prince Group chairman indicted in $15 billion crypto scam. U.S. and U.K. sanction Cambodian tycoon for forced labor scheme. The reports were everywhere. Reuters, AP, The Guardian, Al Jazeera. Each described a sweeping international operation that had tracked billions of dollars in cryptocurrency tied to networks of online fraud, trafficking, and money laundering. And at the center of it all, Chen Zhi. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, the Prince Group was a financial ecosystem built to conceal the profits of cyber fraud networks operating across Southeast Asia. The allegations were severe, that Chen Zhi had knowingly financed, managed, or benefited from scam compounds where victims of human trafficking were forced to defraud people online. Washington called it a modern form of digital slavery. The response was immediate. Authorities in the United Kingdom joined the action, freezing accounts, blocking assets, and designating Prince Group as part of a transnational criminal organization. In total, more than $15 billion USD in Bitcoin was seized from wallets linked to the network. It was one of the largest financial operations in cybercrime history. But inside Cambodia, the story sounded different. Local media outlets published cautious statements from Prince Group denying all accusations. In an official release, the company called the reports baseless and politically motivated, claiming the sanctions were part of a broader geopolitical campaign targeting Asian investors. They emphasized their philanthropic record, schools, hospitals, and the Prince Foundation's extensive charity programs. To them, Chen Zhi was a humanitarian, not a criminal. The Cambodian Ministry of Commerce issued its own statement, noting that Prince Group continues to operate in accordance with national laws and remains a key contributor to the economy. When pressed by foreign journalists, government spokespeople responded carefully. If there is credible evidence, Cambodia will cooperate with international partners. But cooperation never came. Weeks passed. Inside Phnom Penh, Prince Group's headquarters still glimmered under the tropical sun. Employees arrived as usual. Construction sites continued. And Chen Zhi remained unseen. No public appearances, no statements, only silence. The contrast was striking. A man celebrated as a national benefactor, now portrayed as the kingpin of one of the world's largest online fraud empires. The global press demanded accountability. The local press avoided confrontation. And between those two realities stood a billion-dollar empire, still breathing. Analysts noted how deeply Prince Group was woven into Cambodia's infrastructure, banks, roads, telecoms, and real estate. To dismantle it would mean destabilizing entire sectors of the national economy. And perhaps that was the point. Chen Zhi had built something too large to fall. Internationally, however, the pressure grew. Interpol added several associated executives to its wanted list. NGOs called for investigations into labor conditions at construction sites and casinos linked to Prince-owned properties. Cybersecurity agencies traced crypto wallets tied to scam operations back to shell companies bearing Prince's financial signatures. And yet through it all, Chen Zhi himself remained a ghost. No arrest, no confirmation of location, only rumors. That he was in Phnom Penh under protection, or had fled through Macau to the Pacific. None were proven. Still, the narrative had shifted forever. The golden empire that once stood for Cambodia's modern dreams was now shadowed by suspicion and scandal. And for the first time, even his most loyal supporters began to whisper, what if the rumors were true? The empire didn't collapse overnight. Its towers still stood. The banks still operated. But the faith, the illusion of purity, was gone. The empire didn't fall, but its walls began to crack. To understand what lies beyond those cracks, we must look deeper, into the world he built. The empire still stands. Its towers glitter above Phnom Penh, symbols of progress and prosperity. But beneath the shine, the questions remain. Who is Chen Zhi, really? A businessman who believed in Cambodia's future? Or the architect of one of the largest financial deceptions the modern world has ever seen? His name no longer appears in glossy magazines. The once endless stream of publicity has gone silent. Prince Group still operates, but the glow around it has dimmed. The man who once walked beside ministers and monks now exists only in headlines and court filings. For a decade, Chen Zhi built an image of perfection, wealth, generosity, vision. Yet every empire, no matter how grand, casts a shadow, And in Cambodia, that shadow stretches far beyond Phnom Penh, into the compounds of Sihanoukville, the digital corridors of online scams, and the silent suffering of those trapped inside. To understand Chen Zhi, we must step inside that world, the hidden engine that powered his rise, the empire of deception that thrived in plain sight. Because his story doesn't end here. It only begins to unravel. To truly understand who Chen Zhi is, we must look into the place where his power was born, inside a nation that became the center of 1,000 untold scams. They call it the Scam Kingdom of Cambodia.